Welcome back to the second session of today's teleconferencing, and in the first session, as you have heard, that we had a discussion about the materials management, what are the different elements or cycle of materials management, and describing five important of those elements in the cycle of the materials management, then talking what is inventory control, definition of inventory, and then some introduction to the ABC and VED analysis. And well, viewers, we have not heard any question from any one of you. Please register your call and let us know that you are watching this teleconferencing. Even if you don't have a question, we would come to know that yes, there is a participation, but we would be very appreciative if you clarify your doubts. And then I'll also request Dr. Das towards the end of this session to give some more insight into the inventory control techniques. Now I'll discuss briefly about the hospital equipment management, and as I said earlier that the hospital equipments are based on high cost, sophisticated, expensive instruments based on very modern technology, electronic technology, and IT technology. So these equipments have to be procured based on the scientific methods of materials management and not by your or my experience alone. You see, to err is human, but not to learn from our mistakes is unpardonable. So we may commit mistakes, but we must try to learn the lessons from those mistakes. And there are some important concepts that we would like to discuss, like what is the use coefficient of the equipment, what are the specifications versus brand of the equipment, what are some concepts like equipment installation on the turnkey basis, what do you understand by turnkey basis, leasing of the equipment. These are some of the concepts which are coming into the whole scheme of things of the hospital equipment management. And use coefficient. You see, whenever we buy a second equipment of the same type, for example in a X-ray department there is already one X-ray machine, you want to buy another X-ray machine, then we have to see that how much is going to be the use coefficient of that equipment, means utilization of that equipment vis-a-vis the workload and the cost of the equipment. And use coefficient is derived by a simple formula which is N upon M, N for Nagpur, M for Madras. So N upon M multiplied by 100. So N is the numerator, N means the number of hours the hospital that equipment is going to be used. The second X-ray machine, the example we have taken, that you may need a second X-ray machine, and you feel that the utilization of this X-ray machine is definitely going to be for 4 hours every day in addition to the old X-ray machine. And M is the number of hours you can possibly the maximum number of hours you can possibly use that X-ray machine every day. Suppose M is 12 hours. That for 12 hours you can use the X-ray machine without too much heating up or wear and tear. So that is the time permitted by the manufacturer, that easily for 12 hours the X-ray machine can be used. So N numerator is 4 hours, M denominator is 12 hours, and multiplied by 100. So this becomes, if you calculate it, the utilization comes to 33%. And there is a rule of thumb which says that any utilization of less than 50% is considered to be a bad investment in equipment planning and management. Okay. So if it was, if suppose in place of 4, the numerator was 8 hours, that you are going to use the machine approximately for 8 hours every day, and the denominator remains the same, 12. In that case, the utilization becomes 66%. So this is a good investment, and utilization of more than 50% is considered to be a good investment. So use coefficient is a very simple formula that one should apply before procuring these high cost and sophisticated equipment based on high cost technology. But this formula, please remember, is not applicable on some life-saving equipments, like, you know, in casualty department or in ICCU, you have the defibrillators. The defibrillators are used for cardiac arrest and, you know, these things. And if even it is not utilized for months together, we just cannot say that it's a poor utilization, because these are the life-saving emergency equipments, and if there is poor utilization of even less than 33%, we have to have these kind of portable defibrillators, and we may have to keep more than one, because if you have casualty ICCU, in the casualty also probably you need to have one more as a standby. So please keep in mind that these are some of the guidelines and not a very sacrosanct thing. The other thing I said, the specifications of the equipment are very, very important. You see, you go to buy your own car, and when you go to buy your own car, you have so many things in mind, that whether I'm going for the small car or we are going for the what is that, nano, which is that we afford only, we have the budgetary constraint and we need only for 2 persons, we don't need a big car. Or you are going to have a B segment or bigger car, and then you have the specifications of the CC, you know, power, the horsepower, then the air conditioning, then the various engine specifications, rotations and torque and whatnot. All these specifications are carefully studied, and a comparative table is prepared in your mind, or in your, you make a table for yourself to see, and now we get that table in the newspapers also to compare the various specifications. So similarly, if you decide to buy a CT scan, for example, and CT scan, now we have so many modern, every year to year the upgradation of the technology. So we have to select the best, and in these specifications we try to finalize in consultation with collecting the specifications from the vendors, from the manufacturers, and then we have a committee in which the imaging experts are sitting, and then we decide about, okay, we need a CT scan of this gantry aperture and tilt, image processing and heat dissipation of the CT scan. Then the dynamic CT frames per second, the spare X-ray tubes. There are so many specifications, so we try to finalize those specifications, and then we float a tender for the procurement of the hospital equipment based on these specifications. So these are some introductory things, and then we have to, once the CT scan is ordered, then you have to, it just cannot be purchased and put in any room. You have to have the civil work, you have to have the mechanical, you have to have the electrical, you have to have so many other things are required, which have to be coordinated for this installation and commissioning of the CT scan. So we call it that, to overcome the civil, mechanical, electrical, all these kind of engineering coordination, there is a concept in which we outsource this on a turnkey basis. T-U-R-N, turn, K-E-Y, key, basis, B-A-S-I-S. Turnkey basis means that the company, the Siemens or Wipro, from whom you are buying the CT scan, they will coordinate the civil, mechanical, electrical work, and then construct your facility, and the equipment will be brought by them and installed and commissioned, and then it will be given to you in a working condition. But they will charge some more money. That's what you need to negotiate in the purchase contract, and then this is the turnkey basis. So you overcome, because your civil work, your civil engineering department, if you are a government hospital, the CPWD, PWD, electrical, civil, and electronics, it's very difficult task for all the engineering departments to coordinate and to give you what you require. So these are some concepts which are new concepts, and which we have to keep in mind. Now this the discussion on the hospital equipment management will be based on on two things. One is the timely maintenance and repair of the equipment, which is very, very important, and as I said, that nearly 50% of the equipments in government hospitals are in non-functioning condition. So we have to be careful about the timely maintenance and repair. And then the second most important thing is that those equipments which become obsolete or which are beyond economic repair, we have to condemn and dispose them of. The maintenance of the equipment, as we discussed, has to be based, as the equipments are based on sophisticated and high-cost technology involving huge funds. We need to have a proper maintenance system, and we'll discuss this maintenance under the three broad headings. Three broad headings are: what is the existing situation and what are the existing arrangements for the maintenance? What should be the outline of the plan for biomedical engineering operations for maintenance and repair? And then we should also have a master maintenance plan. Now, what is the existing situation and arrangements for the maintenance? As I told you that the existing situation is gloomy, and why I said so is that there was a survey which was done by the Department of Electronics, Government of India, way back in 1992, and this survey was carried out in 11 states of the government hospitals. And when Mr. N. Vittal, who became later the Chief Vigilance Commissioner, he was the Secretary, Department of Electronics, Government of India. So he conducted this survey. The Ministry of Health did not conduct this survey. You remember, Dr. Das? This survey was done, and then it was revealed that as much as 40 to 50% of the equipments in various departments in public hospitals, both secondary and tertiary care hospitals, are lying unutilized for want of simple maintenance and repair of the hospital equipments. And they have analyzed the reasons, that what are the reasons. They have given a detailed analysis. So this is an eye-opener about the callous and the indifferent attitude of the whole process of hospital equipment management that is there in place, particularly in the government hospitals. And the reasons which are there for the you see this wastage, 40 to 50%, these are the reasons which are listed here, that they are underutilized sometimes because we buy equipment for which we do not have the expertise, and then never used due to lack of expertise, reduced lifetime due to mishandling of the equipment. Sometimes the equipment, the workload in the X-ray or laboratory is so high that because of the overutilization, they go. There is a lot of wear and tear, and they go out of order, they are down. So the downtime is the time when the equipment is not functioning, and this downtime in many places that you may be aware, those of you particularly in government institutions, that downtime can be very high, as the annual maintenance contract is not there. Even if it is there, the engineer or the technician does not turn up, they take long time. So this downtime increases sometimes also because of the lack of preventive maintenance. Also, another problem is the lack of spare parts and the inexperience in the repairs. Then the resource constraints. It's a common story that we have bought a very high cost equipment, maybe in imaging or laboratory, and after the warranty is over, we did not made a provision for the annual maintenance contract budget. So budget is not there, so you cannot have an annual maintenance contract. So we have to keep this in mind before the warranty is over, that we reflect, we find out, enter into a contract with the vendor who supplied the equipment or some other vendor, that how much will be the money which is required for 1 year's AMC, and that budget should be reflected before the warranty is over, so that the AMC is in place, and then you have no problem with regard to the continuous functioning of the hospital equipment. Then the outline of the plan of biomedical engineering operations for the maintenance. Here we have the 4 elements of this plan, biomedical engineering plan. Number 1 is we have to carefully assess the requirement of the equipments. Now, requirement of the equipments, as I said, use coefficient, or also for the new equipment, this has to be realistic requirement. Not that just because we have the money left at the end of the financial year and we buy a lithotripter without the urologist being in place. Then identify the equipments to assess the quality actually. So we have to identify, okay, we need a 500 MA or 300 MA X-ray machine, and then we assess that, okay, which quality, what specifications, all these things. So these are specifications and the sources from where we have to procure, the bed strength and the type and range of the hospital services that you are providing from your institution. So it is secondary care, then you need to have different ball game, and if it is a tertiary and super specialty hospital, the entire process is going to be a little different. Then second important thing is the workload in terms of the patients that we have. The workload of the inpatients, the outpatients, the emergencies, and the patient's load in ICU, etc. also help us in guiding how much equipment and what type of equipment should be purchased. Third, of course, is the resource availability. How much resources you have got. Many times in the government institutions particularly, even in the private sector, the meager resources compel us to take only important and essential equipment. So we have to see, as I said, use coefficient, specifications, workload, then what type of expertise and competencies you have in the hospital. Depending upon that, you have to very carefully use the meager resources that are available in the hospital. And then, as already mentioned, we have to always include the expenditure on the maintenance, that is the annual maintenance contract, and also probably in establishing a small workshop in your own hospital, and this workshop we will discuss when we come to the master maintenance plan. Fourth important element of this plan is the preventive maintenance. Preventive maintenance assumes very important significance. As you know, we take our motor cars, vehicles for regular periodic, when we buy a new car, there are 3 or 4 free services offered, and we regularly take our car for various checkups and various oil change, filter change, coolant change, washing, cleaning, oiling, all these things. That is called preventive maintenance, so that you get a enhanced service, you get a uninterrupted service. The breakdown, the downtime are minimum. So these are the things that we have to keep in mind, and the preventive maintenance has to be done on a periodic basis. Some things are required to be done every day in the morning when you come, some things are checked every month and maybe quarterly, and then it's a very important British saying that says a stitch in time saves 9. If you detect the problem in time, you are going to save a lot of money, and you are going to give a good service by way of the equipment's functioning, and the reliability and validity of the test, also calibration of the machines, that also becomes important. What are the advantages of the preventive maintenance? These are the advantages of the preventive maintenance, that the reduce the idle time. When the machine is lying idle, non-functional, that time is reduced because you get a continuous service. Then second is that we increase the life of the equipment, isn't it? So life of the equipment, if you do good preventive maintenance, repair, all these things, then the life of the equipment increases. The third is the continued service, isn't it? Optimal operational cost, as is true with your car, that if you do regular servicing, your mileage will be, your fuel consumption, running condition, running cost, breakdown will be minimal, and you will get a good satisfactory functioning, good satisfactory service from your equipments. Then safety of operations. Safety of operations. So safety of operations means that there will be no electrocution or leakage from the equipment, whether it is more particularly radiotherapy equipment, and you have to be very, very careful about, even in the X-ray machine, safety of operations would be TLD badges to see the radiations that the technicians and the doctors are exposed to. So safety of operations is very, very important, both from the hospital staff point of view as well as the patient's point of view. In fact, now these days we talk more and more about the patient safety. Infection control and patient safety are the new concepts which are assuming greater significance by the World Health Organization and such bodies, and also the accreditation bodies like NABH. Yes. So care should be taken that the new equipment are under warranty for a longer period. This is very, very important. You see, we don't go by the stereotype warranty, okay, we'll give you, sir, 1 year warranty. No. You see, this is today, can you focus the camera on me, please, Kamal, that today we have, this is the buyer's market, not the seller's market actually. And the buyer's market means that we are calling the shots in the hospital as hospital purchase authorities. And we can dictate our terms. Earlier it used to be, you know, 10, 20 years back, they were dictating the terms because we didn't have many vendors. But today we have many vendors, and today, you know, we can extract maximum by, you know, procuring the equipments from these vendors, by making them, you know, give more and more on the negotiation table. Once you have finalized that you have gone for the L1, and L1 is, say, any vendor for the CT scan or X-ray machine, then with the L1 you can do negotiations. Okay, Mr. L1, you give us, in place of 1 year warranty, give us 2 years warranty. And that should be comprehensive warranty. That means replacement of any parts or, yes, consumables, everything. So that is okay. And because getting 1 year more comprehensive warranty would save you and make it more efficient for you on two accounts. One is you save 1 year's annual maintenance contract, and annual maintenance contract AMC for 1 year is nearly 3 to 5% of the actual cost of the material. If the CT scan is 1 crore of rupees, you straightway save 5 lakhs of rupees for 1 year AMC. So extended warranty is something, and then their engineers comprehensive warranty will be always coming and seeing that during the warranty the equipment does not become down or does not malfunction, and therefore it becomes the onus is on them to make it you know, functioning continuously. So this is very, very important. And then spare parts. You see, you must ask after the warranty is over that you will supply liberally the spare parts for the machine that you have supplied. So spare parts should be enough to last you for a couple of more years after the warranty is over, so that your own technicians and people who are operating the equipment can use and can make the hospital equipment functioning. Then we have to observe these safeguards for the electronic equipments, like built-in alternate voltage stabilizer should be there, because we know that certain equipments like the one that we are talking, high cost and sophisticated equipment, they are very sensitive to the voltage fluctuations. So as far as possible they should be put on the good current, clean current, which means that there are no fluctuations, and the UPS and other voltage stabilizations are very, very important. The automatic switch over to the generator, and then we should have a 3-phase supply for the life-saving equipment. The master maintenance plan is also important. The master maintenance plan should include both the short-term plan and the long-term plan. And the short-term plan will mean that when you see, I am talking of the hospitals which are at least secondary level or the tertiary, you know, level hospitals. So we have to, there we have all kinds of you know, sophisticated equipment in the diagnostic departments as well as operation theaters. So in the short-term plan we have to see that we recruit the skilled manpower in terms of the doctors as well as the technicians. And recruiting the skilled people would be required, and sometimes the vendor also train the people in the day-to-day operation of that equipment. Then establishing a spare part and crucial components bank actually. So we must, as we discussed, we must have adequate supply of the crucial components and the spare parts. Training programs on the maintenance and repair. Training programs on maintenance and repair is something which is very vital and which we do not have in this country in the hospitals actually, for the hospital technicians and doctors. So, you know, when we were doing that study, Dr. Das remember that we got in touch with IIT and Professor Guha, who was heading that time the Center for Biomedical Engineering. And Professor Guha, I always tell everybody that he is a genius. He is retired now, and he was you know, a doctorate IIT graduate. Then he did his MTech and PhD in biomedical engineering. Then he did his MBBS. So he did his MBBS after the IIT from UCMS, I suppose. Yes, and then he was also from IIT, then attached also to All India Institute of Medical Sciences in the Department of Biomedical Sciences. So this, you know, we were in touch when I was together with Dr. Das in the NIHFW, and we also carried out a study on the hospital equipment management, maintenance, repair. And that time we were inactive because IIT Delhi is conducting regular training programs for the technicians and foremen from the engineering and industry. But we said that can you also arrange a training program for the technicians of the X-ray department, laboratory? He said yes, I think, because he was already into the he designed some equipments for the primary health centers with the solar operated cold, maintaining the cold vaccine change, and also, you know, the solar heaters and solar powered certain other equipments. So he said yes, we can design it, and then we tried to do it. Somehow it didn't work out finally, and but we need to have the training programs for the technicians. The long-term plan, the long-term master plan would focus on developing a maintenance organization in the form of central cell for maintenance and repair. This means that every big or medium-sized hospital should have their own workshop. You can call it a maintenance organization, you can call it workshop, or you can call it a central cell, and this should be headed by preferably a biomedical engineer who is trained in the equipment upkeep. And there should be a good communication between this cell and the seller. There should be a good follow-up at the maintenance and repair service. Then we should also try to establish the records of the purchase and the maintenance, and the regular training teaching programs, which I have already discussed. IIT can come to our help and rescue. We have CSIO, Central Scientific Instrument Organization, which has got its offices all over the countries, at least the state capitals. And then ERDC. ERDC, you know, I mentioned at the beginning of my talk that the Department of Electronics conducted a survey nationwide in 11 states of this country. And when they concluded this study in 1990-92, then they revealed that at least equipment worth about 300 crores of rupees in these 11 states, including North, South, East, West, is lying idle, non-functional, for want of simple maintenance and repair. And they have identified training on the equipment, the purchase of the equipment, the specifications of the equipment. The whole entire thing that we are discussing is a very weak link in the government institutions. And they then said, how can we remedy, how can we improve this situation? So to remedy or to remedify this situation, they said that we should open some centers in the country, and that is what is this ERDC, which I am mentioning here. That is the Equipment Research Development Centers, ERDC. And the Department of Electronics opened 13 ERDCs, and nearby is in Gurgaon actually. So Gurgaon has got one ERDC, and the irony is that this ERDC we visited when we were doing this study on the equipment management, and when we visited this center, they have got very well qualified people, engineers, lathe machines, that machine, this machine, and they can, you know, carry out the repairs and maintenance on all electronic equipments, including the X-ray machines or the CT scans, and their engineers can come and work or the smaller equipments can be taken by them. But they said that we have written letters to all the medical superintendents of the Delhi hospitals, including Safdarjung, AIIMS, LNJP, Ram Manohar Lohia and all those, and that we went there, held personal meetings, that our ERDC has all the facilities to repair and maintain the equipments, the sophisticated equipment, and then we, following the meeting, we send letters also. But it's 6 months when we went, and he said that during last 6 months no communication has come from any of the government hospitals in Delhi. It seems that probably they have no problem in the equipment maintenance and repair, while the study and survey revealed that 50% of the equipment is lying non-functional for want of maintenance and repair. So I think we have to, probably we as medical administrators do not attach so much of importance to this entire process, and that's probably leading to a lot of wastage and inefficiency in the functioning of the equipment. This is the second part of my presentation, which I said we'll discuss, is about the condemnation and disposal procedures. The condemnation and disposal procedures, as I said, that once so much of equipment is lying non-functional, some have become obsolete, and they are occupying precious little space in the departments. So it is very, very important that we identify, we have the procedures in place to carry out the condemnation and to dispose of these equipments by way of auction or bidding, whatever it is. So for these unserviceable, for these or those damaged beyond economic repairs, this is an important line that you should underline, that you can ask me why should we and when can we dispose of or condemn the equipment. So condemnation is on account of 2-3 things. One is that the equipment has completely become obsolete, and even if not obsolete, it is functioning, but there is so much of breakdown and so much of repair cost that the equipment has become or damaged beyond economic repair. That means you have to see the data, justify during the last 1, 2, 3 years how much money, how much breakdowns, how much disruption in the functioning of that X-ray machine or auto analyzer has taken place, and how much money has been spent on its upkeep. Then you can justify that though the equipment is not obsolete, but it is beyond economic repair, and then you can dispose of, record your findings through a committee and say that this equipment, and take certificates from the engineers and biomedical organizations that this equipment is beyond economic repair, and therefore it has to be condemned and disposed of. Now for doing this condemnation and disposal, this calls for adequate records of the records and documentation, and these records is, most important record is that every costly equipment of costing more than a lakh of rupees, you must maintain a history sheet of the equipment. And history sheet is, will give you, it's like a horoscope, or it's like a patient case sheet, as we make the name, age, sex of the patient. Similarly, we here, as you see, we have the identification data of that X-ray machine, make, model and date of purchasing, the details and sources of, the details of sources from where you have procured, who is the vendor, what is the address, the reputation of the suppliers, and then availability of the spare parts, the purchase cost when you purchase. So this purchase cost is important. You must have a data so that when you condemn it, you can put the minimum bid price for the auction. Details of the breakdown, how often the machine has broke down, and the downtime total, for how many hours, days it was not functioning. And if repairs were undertaken, what expenditure has been incurred, including the AMC or additional expenditure. If imported, then the details of the whole custom clearance, and then details of the procurement procedure. Now this is a sample of the history sheet. So besides that, you have got all those things like make, model, address, and the spares and other details. You should make a format which is given here, and in this, suppose we write the X-ray machine, serial number 1 is 300 MA X-ray machine, the name of the You see the name of the firm with the address and the telephone number. So we should have the complete address so that we have to follow up on various things. The name of the local servicing agent. Local servicing agent, so that we can get in touch with this person for the annual maintenance contract and whenever the equipment breaks down. And you have purchased quantity, 1 machine or 2 machines, how much was the cost at the time of purchase, when did you receive this X-ray machine, when date of breakdown, as and when there is a breakdown you must record it. And then when the person came from this servicing agency, that also. So and then the time taken for the service engineers to come down to your place is will give the if he has exceeded the time limit which is prescribed, say you have prescribed that within 12 hours you should come or within 24 hours, and if the service engineer does not come, you can impose some penalty on that service engineer. Then the date of repair and the expenditure on the repair in case you have incurred some expenditure, and then some remarks can be added like the life of the equipment. Some of the vendors can give you idea about the life of the equipment as well, that like in government departments we buy ambulances, staff cars. The life is given that okay, the vehicle should run 1,50,000 kilometers and 10 or 15 years. So that is the kind of life of the equipment. Similar, we can take a certificate, X-ray machine, how much the exposures and the years and other things, so that we, once the equipment is giving us trouble, we can say the equipment has outlived its utility and time, and there is a need to condemn this equipment. Finally, friends, we have to have the logbook of every good costly equipment, logbook of maintenance and repair. Now this logbook will give the details like these, like the warranty period of the equipment, servicing and repairs during the warranty, annual service contract after the warranty. Okay, that we have discussed already, that we should try to extend from 1 year to 2 years with comprehensive comprehensive warranty, so that we can save and have trouble-free functioning for at least first 2 years. Expenditure incurred on the annual basis, expenditure on other maintenance and repairs, the details of the preventive maintenance, whether it is in working condition or not. So these are the things that we have to have in the condemnation and disposal, and then we should constitute a condemnation board, and routine items can be condemned periodically, and then for such items we can have a highly empowered condemnation board for costly equipments, and then this condemnation board will be empowered to put the minimum bid, and then it can be auctioned. You can have some revenue generation, but there are certain items like which have the radiotherapy equipments. There are guidelines given by the Atomic Energy Commission as well as the BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center, so that have to be salvaged items, and we cannot just auction the radiotherapy equipments to the vendors because they are dangerous to the community and there is a radiation leak. So well friends, this is all I thought I will share with you in this presentation on the equipment management, and if the questions are not coming, probably I don't know what is the problem, but we should have had some questions from you. And now we have 5 minutes, 4-5 minutes. Maybe Dr. Das, you would like to add to what I said, things that I missed on equipment management plus anything else on the materials management.
Thank you, Professor Agarwal. I think very nicely and in a very comprehensive way, you touched upon all the important aspects which one like to or should have taken care of while having our management for that equipment, right from its planning, procurement, installation and maintenance. So that is the most important thing, because if you look after the equipments will look after you, means they will not give you the trouble. And if we are having, as Professor Agarwal was telling, that more than 50% of the time equipment is not functioning, I'll refer back to the same thing of that inventory carrying cost. That means you have invested on that item and you are not getting the return out of it. So that is a huge loss to the exchequer and huge loss to the hospital. So we need to be very, very careful. Every moment should be very important, and that is why you will find nowadays in our maintenance contracts, we always mention a clause, that is whether it is the warranty or the maintenance contract, that is percentage of uptime time, that is almost going up till 95%. 95% means you can allow the downtime period for only 5%, which in a year comes to not more than 17 days. So the company or the firm who are under the contract for the annual maintenance should take care of this and do the needful, and those penalty clauses and all those things should be there. And second thing is maintenance of this history sheet and logbook. It is very, very important, and what I have learned from Professor Agarwal only, it is not only that you are having that history sheet with the store purchase department, but this history sheet should also be maintained by the user department also, because it is the user department, they can in that time, from a moment of time, they can say whether that equipment is working or not, first thing. And second thing, most of the time we have seen in our hospitals, like in our annual maintenance, they are supposed to have 4 service, free servicing to be given, and you will find most of the time at the end of the year, when the time of payment comes, these service engineers are appearing, doing some servicing, and the user department is signing for all the 4 services. That is very wrong policy or wrong procedure to follow. If after 3 months the service engineer is not coming, it should be brought to the notice of the competent authority or the store purchase department, and they should either contact the people, and if it is a high cost kind of thing, the department themselves should contact. And that is why Professor Agarwal have shown that the name and address not only of the the manufacturer, but also of the local agent, and they should take care of this thing. They should be contacted, so that they should come and do the needful. And if you are not doing those servicing at that right moment, in the long term, what will happen when some major mistakes or major troubles are shooting up, or some major damages are being done, and then we are waking up, and it will take some time for the repairment, and that will bring down to our idling time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Das. I think we have had a fairly comprehensive discussion on the 2 subjects, that is the materials management and the equipment management, and we only feel bad that we didn't get any questions. Probably there is some communication gap, maybe that you were not
able to reach us,
and but probably next time we will make this announcement in advance and make sure that you get this announcement, because these teleconference sessions are very, very important, and this is the opportunity for you to ask questions not only with relation to these topics, but any other question related to the program. So thank you all very much for being with us, and goodbye, all the best to all of you.